Well, welcome. It's Thursday. Got another edition of our webcast. I don't have a whole lot to show you. We had some precipitation come through this morning. Rolled through it very quickly over 2 hours, and by the time I got outside, it was clear again. So, not a whole lot going on here. Just back to the usual clear weather. So, we'll just head straight to the maps here and just do kind of a quick presentation here. You can see we've cleared out here in this part of Texas pretty well. Hang on a second. Okay, so here we are. You can see the frontal system we were talking about yesterday, all the way up in the Great Lakes area. So we're seeing kind of a situation kind of like that. Cold front extending down into Texas. So just kind of a quick look at our pattern. Kind of like that. So we're getting back behind it, the high pressure moving in, and that's bringing some dry air southward into Texas. Out in the southeastern U.S., though, the tropical air mass is still holding on pretty good there, and we're seeing some warm conditions and moisture out there. And out to the northwest, you can see the next Pacific system about to head into the area right there. So this is a baroclinic leaf. This is upper level lift coming in from the Pacific. And you can see back even further, there's the tail clouds. This is a convection due to a cold core setup. So there's cold conditions aloft here, and that gives us instability. And you can see over the Central Plains it's clear, and this is probably a good time to look at the soundings because we tend to look at them only when there's bad weather. It's good to kind of contrast that and see what it looks like during good weather. So here's the Dodge City sounding. I better change the titles here. There we go. Here's the Dodge City sounding. Okay, right there, you can see a frontal inversion. So from the surface on up to about 3,000 feet off the ground, we have an increase in both the temperature and the dew point. So that's a good indicator you have a frontal inversion, and also the northerly winds in the low levels right there. And above that, you can see a separate subsidence inversion up about 15,000 feet. If we go to Norman, Oklahoma, kind of a similar situation, but can't really pick out the frontal inversion. We do have a lot of dry air in that column, and kind of a stable profile from the surface on up to 10,000 feet. We'll do one more for Fort Worth. This was 12Z. They were having the storms go through right around this time. So you do see kind of a contaminated sounding here. A lot of moisture in the column, and we're getting these weird artifacts where the temperature layer goes super adiabatic, which can't really happen. This is due to evaporation out of the cloud tops. So this does kind of throw this sounding here into question, and we would probably want to use other sites around the area for that. So we'll take a quick look at the satellite picture. You can see Dallas-Fort Worth right here, looking pretty clear. It's pretty amazing. You can see almost down to the street level, showing Richardson right here, Addison in this location right there, and you can see the 1 mile grid to the street pattern. So pretty good detail from these satellites. But shows you how clear the air mass is. There's the front going through Texas earlier today. And when you get south of that, you start picking up the tropical air mass yet again. So a lot of towering cumulus in the Victoria area right here. And as you go further west, you tend to get into some upslope type flow. And with that upslope into the higher terrain of far northern Mexico in the Del Rio area, we get this stratus layer right there. Then if you go even further west into the Trans-Pecos area, there's some more upslope flow. That kind of correlates to this right here on the map. You see this spreading of this anticyclonic flow. This area out here has an upslope component. So because of that, we tend to get a little bit of lift associated with that until the drying moves completely through the area and clears all that out. So those are just a few things to look for. And here comes our next system. Looks mostly elevated right now, but if we look at the fronts, probably something like that, just for a first guess. Okay, that's about all that's going on right now, so I'll probably just take this up to the GFS panel. Let me get the map centered here. Okay, so we can start with this. If you look into the isobar pattern, you'll find a low pressure area right about there. So I'll just draw that low very quickly, and then the warm front's going to look something like that, with the cold front extending down into Texas. And back behind it, there's the cold air advection coming in the backside. We've seen that on the charts the past couple nights, and here it is. Further west, we see a little bit of lee side cyclogenesis from Denver all the way up to Calgary, and then further west we pick up a little bit of that front moving into Washington right there. So that's going to be the next system here. So what do we have coming up for the weekend? I'll run this all the way up to Saturday night. Here we have the bulk of the cold air advection going into the northeast U.S., so it should be a pretty cool evening anywhere east of the Appalachians, north of Virginia, so this area right here. No, the bulk of the system, though, is offshore, so there's the cold front out of the Canadian Maritimes, and otherwise it should be pretty much fair conditions in the northeast around this time. But Texas is getting back into the warm air advection pattern. You can see you can form these boxes here between the thickness and the isobars. So the isobars are black, the thickness is red, and we can form these boxes kind of like that. So that's showing us we have warm air advection in this entire area here. So if there's sufficient moisture with that, we will get clouds. So, going on all the way into the start of next week. Looks like still some cold air moving south into the northeast U.S. Kind of stagnant conditions across the central U.S. And we're watching out to the Pacific Northwest for the next system coming in. Looks like we're going to have to wait a while on that. All I see right here is just the usual lee side cyclogenesis. You can see Texas has very weak patterns there. So it looks like we have to wait until Friday. So a week from now, you see the next front about to head southward. We go through the weekend. That sweeps southward, the same track as what we saw today. And then by Halloween, the 31st, we're looking at a pretty stagnant pattern. Looks like the models have kind of sped up that frontal system in the eastern U.S., going out a lot quicker out to the east. Then we have our next system. Looks like it's starting to sink southward from Canada. And this is looking a little bit stronger, but, you know, we're getting to 300 hours out. So anyway, it looks like the systems are lining up, but there is about 6 to 7 days between those. And that's probably about all I got for tonight. I'm going to get back to the programming work that I'm doing, and hopefully y'all have a good evening. Hello to everybody in chat, and hope to see you here the same time tomorrow. Thanks for watching.